today, from hard rock to folk rock to shoegaze to one of the greatest garage rock albums that is a must-have in any collection. Welcome to the Early Morning Sunday Show. Early Morning Sunday Show with ta-da, cat. Right on time. You know, it's not easy to train a cat to be able to come in and bother you as soon as you start to feel. Yes, meow, exactly. Yes, say hi to the camera. Say hi to everybody out there that tunes in for you, which is most of you. Yes, meow. Quit looking at my hand. There you go. See? Meow. Meow. Looky, looky, looky. Meow. Okay. We're waiting for Kat to get down, so let's begin. Let's do the opening monologue. I've been going to, physical therapy for my back. Now I just go once a month or whatever, but for quite some time they've been saying, you need to get an inversion table. Get an inversion table. And if you don't know what an inversion table is, just here's what an inversion table, they've taken an ancient medieval torture device and they've modernized it, and we now call it exercise equipment. That's an inversion table, where you get turned upside down so your spine feels like it's just going to pull right out of your body, and all the blood goes to your head until you pass out. And we call it exercise. So just think about, if you go down, you're in a castle and you're on a tour and they take you down to the torture chamber and go, here's the torture chamber, just raise your hand. Isn't it basically just an exercise room now? So yeah, isn't exercise kind of a form of torture? Sometimes it really is. But a month ago, I did it. I went and I bought an inversion table. This is okay, fine. I got to do something because I don't get a lot of sleep. So I bring home the inversion table. And to make sure, I get full use of it, I put it in my living room, in our family room where we watch TV. So now I have that. And for the last month, you spend all this money and it's like nothing's happening. I'm not getting sleep. My back still hurts at night. During the daytime, I think I feel better, but not at night. Yeah, it's a son of a gun. And, last Sunday, finally, that was it. I'm just pissed about this thing. I go over to that inversion table and I'm kind of livid with things. So I walk over to it and I take the box and I open it up and I pull it out and I put the damn thing together. They just said, get an inversion table. I got an inversion table. They didn't say I had to put it together and use it. So I've been staring at it and didn't do a dang thing for me. Would you quit? Why do you need to lick my face? Dude, you bite. Holy crap. So now I do actually have it. And here's just, if you've never had an inversion table, here is my helpful hint. Take the change out of your pocket, because when you go upside down, you're just going to get pelted with a whole bunch of money, and it doesn't feel very good. So I self-torture myself. I guess that makes me a masochist twice a day. All right. So we're going to try to begin with records. Would you sit down so we can show records. I hope everyone had a happy St. Patrick's Day. I napped. But cheers. Early morning show. Okay, cat's starting to relax. We're going to begin. This is pretty cool. Lords of Altamont. And the name of the album is Tune In, Turn On, Electrify. This is this is from an LA band. This is really neat. The cover itself is pretty cool. Ooh, look at that. It's a die cut. Now, you have to be careful to put it back in, so let's just not try to do that. Oh, there, I did it. Okay. Black vinyl, nothing special. This is the inner sleeve. I'll just pull it out. Kind of nice. Lords of Altamont. garage rock, psych rock, would best describe them. The members, John the Preacher Cavalier, Danny Sin. Then we got Rob the Garbage Man Zim. And of course, on drums, Barry the Hatchet Van Esbrook. Barry spelled B-A-R-R-Y. Barry the Hatchet. That's fantastic. This is their 7th album. You know, they formed in LA in 2000. Still going. This is their 7th album. Came out, I'd say, in 2001. This is like Detroit-influenced garage rock. That's what's happening on here. Think MC5, the Fuzz Tones, the Stooges, or, you know, especially MC5 without the politics. That's what you get on this thing. It is great. It rocks super hard. It's 60s hard rockin', organ infused fun. Rock and roll. This thing just goes, and I can't think whose channel I was thinking. Was it Brian, Cosmic Brian? I saw this on. I'm not positive, but I went out and I got this thing, and it's just really good. I'm playing you a clip from a million. What is it called? A million watts electrified. It on there. There's just this cranked up organ going on. I mean, it's just like this. It has that 60s sound, but to the early 70s. Again, Detroit garage rock. Super fun album. For those of you that like your hard rock and garage rock, you really can't go wrong with this. Lords of Altamont. We have VCLT next, and this person's been very generous with me. And it's Michael Christensen. And that's the name of his channel, Michael Christensen. He is a musician. In fact, he just got his test pressing back on his new album. The pressing plants are picking up the pace. They're catching up, and so, you know, he hopes to have an album released fairly soon. So really excited about that. And I've shown his other album, and we, you know, a couple of different times. So please check out Michael Christensen. But he sent me this, and it's the Triptides. So many days. It's an LA-based band, and I guess you could say they're considered psych, but not on this one. This is it's a 3-piece band, and this one came out in 2022, and it's their love letter to Laurel Canyon. Now, the group itself started in Bloomington, Indiana in 2010. I think my son was in college there, my youngest son in college there at the time. I need to ask him if he knew these guys. It is this, as I mentioned, it's like folk rock. It is their tribute to that type of music that was coming out. There's kind of acoustic and pedal steel guitar, very heavy in here. There's maybe a little tinges of psych, but not a lot. This is just, it's folk rock. It's full of rich harmonies. Think pre-Eagles country rock. It probably best describes what you got going on in here. They just took this the country rock sound, and they modernized it and made it even more exciting. It's very melodic. It's very relaxing. It's a fun album to listen to, and it's one that you'll put on again. You know, if you sit there, and believe me, I went from playing Lords of Altamont to Triptide, and psychologically I think I'm okay, but it's a big change of direction. But the folks in Triptide really know how to play their instruments, and it really is a great tribute to that Laurel Canyon sound. Well worth looking into. Great stuff. It's something that I never would have bought. I never would have thought about buying. And Michael really has loved this album. It's a group that he supports. And so he sent this to me. And I can see why. And now I'm very curious about their other albums. But really, really nice. Triptides and So Many Days. Recent reissue. Gary Newman. And their very first album, well, basically it's the Two Boy Army. I bought this originally in a bargain bin, back in the 80s, where you could get like Reptiles, Two Boy Army, pretty much anything from Gary Newman was super cheap. Now, Gary Newman, or as his mother would say if he was in trouble, Gary Anthony James Webb, get your ass in here. That's his name. Gary Anthony James Webb, born in 58, a year older than me. He actually began, but he started his really recording that in 77. What happened is, obviously he's in England, and punk is going big. And he's trying to figure what to do with his life. And he has a guitar, and he likes his guitar. And he just has a bunch of meaningless jobs going on. So he says, you know what? Forming a punk band is where it's at, which is what everyone was doing. Everyone was forming a punk band, and so he wanted to do that too. And so he becomes part of a band called Mean Street and the Loser. Mean Street and the Loser. And he writes a bunch of songs for them. But then I guess he comes and they're kind of doing their own thing. So without him, he's kind of a quiet, shy person, not what you would think of as a front man. So he goes, okay, I'm going to form my own band, which he does. And he, forms it with Jesse Lydiard here. And that's his uncle. That's Uncle Jess. Uncle Jess is right there. And Paul Gardner on bass. So it's a 3-piece punk band. And they go to the studio and they're going to record a punk album. They get into the room. In the corner, there's a synthesizer. Now, Gary knows what a synthesizer is. He's just never touched one or played one. So he goes over there, hits the button and goes, God, that sounds cool. Everybody, wow, this sounds cool. And he's really kind of interested in this whole thing. And so instead of recording for the next 3 days, he spends his time in there messing with the synthesizer and rewriting his songs to include that within the music. And that's how it all gets started. And this album itself, it's a rocker. This is a hard rocking album. I remember when I first got it, because I bought Cars was my first. So I'm buying this and I go, oh man, beginning of Cars. I go, what the hell, man? This isn't Cars? What? Now, 40 years later, I put this on and go, wow, this thing's really good. It's filled with loud, crunching guitars, drum and bass on there, front and center, but there is a little synth in there. It's not heavy synth. There's just a little bit in there. But everything else is just these live instruments. Really fun, rocking. Definite punk in there, but more of a hard rocker. He went on, obviously had Cars, and then, he struggled coming up with something else. The press really got on him. One of his heroes was David Bowie. He loved David Bowie. After Cars, David Bowie hated Gary Newman. In fact, David Bowie was in an interview and they asked David Bowie, what's the best song you ever wrote? And he looks at him and goes, Cars. Yeah. David Bowie thought Gary Newman copied him. And maybe Gary Newman did. But we're talking David Bowie. David Bowie did not copy anybody. Holy smokes. We all know Bowie copied lots of people. Yeah, don't go sit on the records. And so Bowie's pissed off his new, right, he copied me. Look at all the money he made. Well, Bowie copied hell out of everyone else. So, but yeah, Bowie hated Newman for life. Bowie wouldn't ever talk to him, touch him, whatever. So, but this album, it is a rocker. Really, really neat. Happy to get this back in. Very excited to have it. And that's the story behind there. Some people need the heroes. Please listen to the sirens. We don't wish to be your friends. All right, we got a group. I got 3 albums here from the group called Young Prisms. Young Prisms. Their first album, there's their second album, and their third album. And they're pretty hard artwork to see. But this was inspired by Sam, the Vinyl Douche. He had shown, I believe this one was just reissued. It's their first album. So the Young Prisms, they're out of San Francisco. It's a shoegaze band. It's a 4-piece outfit. They put out 3 albums. First 2, 2011, 2012. Then they took 10 years off. Part of it because some of the group were dating or married or whatever, but there was some inner turmoil, so that did it. Other things, they just weren't liking each other. Then, of course, COVID hits. Last year they did their next album. They got back together. So, but very much kind of shoegaze. And watch Sam the Vinyl Douche, you know that he plays a lot of that. And I really like it. And I like it a lot. I try to think in 10 years, will I still be digging shoegaze? I've liked it for about 30, so I'm hoping I will because I have an awful lot of it. But this one here, so this is the first album, Friends for Now. This came out in 2011. The original artwork had a naked lady on there. They've decided to not put that on. The bastards. I don't know what, purpley, violety. I don't even know what color, how you say that color. It's like shoegaze with dream pop tendencies. The problem is it is lacking in hooks, and the vocals are really, really buried in the back of it. But you do have that wonderful, that feedback, droning guitar going on. And the vocals have that ethereal type sound. But it's just really, really buried within the mix. So you're not going to hear a thing. And there's no lyric sheet, so there's no way you're going to hear it. But this came out in 2011. And it was just called, the name of the album is Friends for Now. 2012, they came up with this, In Between. And you can see that ring light there that I really don't know how to use. I just plug it in because then I got a cool channel. And people think you know what you're doing. I think we call that Coke bottle now. I believe that's what that is called. And the inner sleeve is there's a picture of someone who can't take a picture. I don't know. What the beats? Yeah. Okay. Someone can't take. Let's just say their artwork is dark and kind of what the music's like. It's really kind of dark. Please, if you want that freeze frame, go ahead and have that because I won't use it. Okay. So In Between came out in 2012, and it's not as fuzz-laden. This one is a little more, I got it upside down. Hell, artwork's I don't even know which way I'm going with it. There's more vocal distinction and there's hooks on here. The other song really didn't have hooks. This one has some on there. It's kind of like Mazzy Star, but definitely a lot harder. There's this, I guess it best describes wistful haziness to the music. But but it's a cold jangle. So this is not a warm album. The other one's not a warm album. It can leave you kind of cold feeling, if that makes sense, or I just may have confused the crap out of you. But, you just don't get warm fuzzies from the whole thing. But you do have songs. I'm going to play a sample from like Gone. And that just, it has kind of a sunny riff, and the vocals are a lot more clear. You can understand them. What's singing. It was enjoyable. And I like this album a lot. It's enjoyable. It's not necessarily memorable, though. And that's probably the biggest thing. But it is more varied than their first album. Then they released their newest one. This came out last year. It's called Drifter. Again, we make sure that everything's super dark looking. There's the inner sleeve. 2 vinyl Richie. Look, I put it down and I didn't try to put it back in there. Only took 4 or 5 years, bud. Okay, Vinyl Richie knows what I'm talking about. All right, Drifter. This came out 2022. Again, they had that 10-year hiatus. This, what is it? More, again, there's a lot of hazy guitars. There's more, the vocals are in there once again. A lot of times dual vocals. There's synth, simple drum beats happening, but it's kind of, again, the vocals got buried again. It's a little bit harder to go. The songs, I think they tend to blend together at times, but there are some hooks. So, and hooks are important. If you want to remember a song, you need to have some type of hook. Otherwise, if it's just a drone, it can be interesting. Spaceman 3 were very good at it, but even they would have a hook. I know on here, one of the songs, Honeydew. Honeydew was one I liked. It was a nice example of a good, catchy song in a shoegaze kind of way, but you just couldn't understand the vocals. So, so Sam showed one. I went out and bought all 3, but they're at really good prices. I mean, they're clearanced out. Sometimes, well, why is that, Steve? Why would they be clearanced out? No one was buying them. I don't know, but I enjoyed them, but they're not memorable. Best way to say it. How about a Vinyl Me Please from Lord knows how far back? Interpol. I got stacks of Vinyl Me Please I've never shown, and eventually I do show these. But this one came out, this is Interpol. They formed in 1997 in Manhattan. Vinyl Me Please always gives you one of these, a piece of picture. And this is their first album that came out in 2002. They formed in college. And they were playing around, didn't have a name, and if, they're kind of arguing, well, we got to come up with a name because people don't know. They just say, yeah, we're going to go hear the band that doesn't have a name, and that's not going to help us. So, a couple, they thought, how about Las Armas? Las Armas was the thought. Didn't go out. Then they go, the French Letters. What the hell's that? The French Letters? They seriously were thinking about that. Pretty red, isn't that? And they finally came up with Interpol. I guess they wanted something kind of European sounding. So Interpol it was. The music is post-punk revival. Probably best describe it. Think Joy Division, Echo and the Bunny Man. I think that's kind of where it would fall in. That it is this was their first album. This one came out in 2002. Turn on the Bright Lights, and yeah, Turn on the Bright Lights. Yep, that's right. Did I get that right? And since then they've done 7 albums. So 7 total albums. If you listen to the vocals, you will think Ian Curtis is singing. Someone brought Ian Curtis back from the dead and put him on here. Now, the sample I'm going to play, he doesn't sound quite as Joy Division, but overall, it really has that sound. But yet the music, it is dark, it is gloomy. Okay, that sounds like Joy Division, but it was done. They're doing it around the time of 9/11. So, I mean, there wasn't a lot of optimism in that. In fact, they went up to Connecticut. New York City just wasn't the place to be at that time. So that's where they went. And this is considered a classic now. And it has inspired many other bands. There is just this, it's melodic bass lines, you can hear them in here, but definite shoegaze textures. And I remember when it came out, it had good reviews, and I bought the CD. And I went out and I bought the first few Interpols on CD. Find Me Please, they give you a book. Sometimes it's a tiny little packet book. Sometimes it's a big book. And not a whole lot with pictures on there. So, a classic, well worth. You know, I mean, I'm happy to have it. Again, it's not like the album I'll play all the time because it really is too gloomy and dark. Okay, that's it. That's what we got this week. Hope you enjoyed. Look forward. My last midweek was a real turd on the Queen. No one cared for that one. It happens. I'm not sure what I'm doing this midweek. It may be more near a record store tour and bringing some stuff back into my collection. But appreciate you dropping by. Have yourself a great week. Bye.